Many people fear old age, believing it's when the body starts to fade little by little each day. People often speak of illness, memory decline, or not being as agile as they once were. But very few share an important truth. When physical strength wanes, the mind can begin to recover in its own unique way. This isn't typically discussed in health checkups, nor is it something you hear about when you hit 60, but some things you only truly see clearly once you're past the halfway mark of life. A morning no longer rushed, yet feeling wonderfully complete. A gentler perspective on things that once kept you up at night. A soft smile realizing, I don't need to be better than anyone to be loved. And a silence deep enough to reveal, nothing's more precious than a quiet afternoon with tea and the sound of breathing. Old age isn't merely weakening, it's an opportunity to heal, if you see it the right way. Today's video explores 6 profound, scientifically backed psychological benefits that you can truly appreciate only by slowing down. If you find yourself slowing down, perhaps you're on the right path, closer to what truly matters, inner peace, ready to explore them. First up, worrying less about unimportant things than in your youth. Things once kept us up all night, but now we just smile, hardly bothering to recall. When young, we were often caught up in countless nameless worries. An unintentional word, an ill-timed glance, or an unanswered text could send our minds spinning. Each day was an emotional race, and sometimes we didn't even understand what we were chasing. Yet, as we enter old age, something remarkable happens. Our minds gradually become much calmer. Things that once troubled us now suddenly seem, well, less significant. Because after so many years of striving, we gradually realize not everything is worth our worry. And science actually backs this up. A Stanford University study showed older adults are better at managing their emotions than younger folks. They tend to focus on the positive and more easily let go of life's minor daily worries. I once knew 2 elderly friends. Let's call them Tom and Richard. Both were the same age, both retired in the same year. Tom often fretted over past issues, things he couldn't change. Richard, meanwhile, had a much lighter perspective. What's past is past, let it go, he'd often say. 5 years later, Richard still enjoyed leisurely morning walks, while Tom rarely left home, weighed down by lingering sorrow. If we keep clinging to pointless worries, old age won't be those peaceful, serene days we imagine. It can feel like an old box, crammed with outdated sorrows. And believe it or not, those seemingly small worries can actually impact blood pressure, heart health, and even sleep. The solution, it's quite simple. Whenever you feel anxious over something trivial, ask yourself, will this even matter in 5 years? If the answer is no, let it go like a falling leaf and move on feeling lighter. Old age doesn't demand you do more, just that you dare to let go of more. Each worry released brings a day of sounder sleep and a lighter existence. Once accustomed to letting go of the unnecessary, we also start to see others with a gentler eye. That's when forgiving and letting go becomes easier than before. Someone might have hurt you so deeply you thought you'd never, ever forget. But then, at a certain age, you only feel compassion for yourself for having held on to it for so long. When younger, we often had hearts easily wounded yet slow to forgive. A wrong word, a thoughtless act, could leave a lasting scar. We held on to it all, anger, disappointment, even grudges no one else even remembered, as if clinging to those things would somehow bring us justice. But then old age arrives, and almost like magic, we start learning the art of letting go. Letting go of resentment, old mistakes, and above all, needless expectations of others. Not because we're weak, but because after so many years we realize forgiveness is primarily a gift to ourselves. Psychologists call this late emotional wisdom, a characteristic often observed in older adults. They no longer react impulsively as in youth, but learn to view things with a more generous heart. Forgiveness is no longer a weakness, but a sign of inner strength, carefully honed over time. I once met an elderly lady, Mary, at a San Diego community gathering. Speaking of a sister who'd saddened her for over 20 years, she smiled, saying, I don't recall exactly what she did. I just remember that holding on to that sadness exhausted me more than the sadness itself. After a reconciliatory phone call last year, she said she slept better and felt a weight lift. Conversely, my elderly neighbor, nearly 80, still habitually rehashed disagreements with an old work friend. Each time he mentioned it, his eyes would darken. Time can't heal if our hearts remain closed. If we don't let go in time, memories can become shackles, binding us to outdated emotions. And that simmering anger can even contribute to inflammation, a weakened immune system, and a faster heartbeat at night. Try this small step. Today, think of one name, someone you've been angry with for a very long time. And instead of holding on, choose forgiveness for them and importantly for yourself. Old age isn't just an ending, it's a wonderful time to make peace with others and with your own soul. When our hearts are lighter, free from old resentments, we look around and suddenly see more clearly who truly remains in our lives. In that quiet, the value of each relationship gradually emerges, clearer and more profound than ever. Later on, we increasingly see that a phone call can be more precious than any money. In life's busiest years, we often thought success meant a good job, a stable home, and a bit of recognition. Appointments with friends were often replaced by endless meetings. Family meals were often postponed for pressing work. We'd tell ourselves, we'll meet when I'm free. But ultimately, we were never truly free. Old age acts almost like a natural filter. The noise fades and casual social ties diminish. And then, what remains are those who genuinely stay, with nothing left to give or receive. Many U.S. studies show older adults tend to invest more in close, meaningful relationships rather than broadening social networks. This not only helps them feel happier, but also contributes to slowing mental decline. I once observed two elderly ladies in a small Oregon nursing home. Let's call them Linda and Sharon. One lived with her television and medications day after day, unvisited. The other received daily morning calls from her daughter and afternoon visits from a close friend with cake. Same age, same environment, yet their eyes told entirely different stories. One radiated the warm light of connection, the other the shadow of prolonged silence. When younger, we often traded our precious time for money. But eventually we realize family bonds and true friendships are irreplaceable. And if we miss chances to nurture them today, we can't get those moments back. The solution can be beautifully simple. Pick up the phone and call someone you haven't connected with in ages. Write a handwritten letter to an old friend, or simply share a full meal with someone. Unhurried, phones away. At this age, what's most precious isn't how many days are left, but having someone beside you for shared laughter, or just a hand to hold when the winds of life shift. And precisely from those simple connections, we gradually understand happiness isn't found in things yet to come, but in the very moment we're living. This brings us to cherishing the present rather than always chasing the future. Perhaps you've spent half your life chasing some elusive tomorrow, forgetting that today is also slipping away. In youth, we lived as if constantly running late for our own lives, rushing to work, grabbing quick lunches, then evenings spent worrying about tomorrow's tasks and achievements. Each day felt like an arrow shot toward the future, where we imagined true happiness patiently waited. But strangely, after passing life's halfway mark, free from the pressure to prove anything, we finally get a chance to pause. And in that moment, we realize what we sought for so long wasn't far off. It was in the small things happening around us daily. Harvard's long-term happiness research shows that older adults tend to feel more content with the present than younger people. No longer driven by expectations or pressures, they learn to savor the now, a warm cup of tea, a gentle sunny afternoon, or a familiar story that still brings a smile. I recall old Joe, a friend from my small Texas neighborhood. Each afternoon, he'd sit on his porch, watching sunlight shift colors on the trees. No phone, no TV, just him and the world's slow, steady movements. Every day's like this, yet no 2 days are ever the same, he'd say. His brother, though, same age, constantly fretted about illness, family matters, and even rising electricity bills. One was truly living, the other merely existing. If our minds stay perpetually busy with tomorrow, we miss out on old age's finest gift, the ability to live fully in each moment, unhurried and without regret. Here's a small practice. Tomorrow morning, when you open your eyes, don't rush. Lie there an extra minute, breathe deeply, and ask yourself, today, what am I truly grateful for? Perhaps it's just the bird song outside, or simply the fact that you're still breathing. Old age isn't the end, it's an invitation to live slowly, deeply, and authentically as yourself. And the present, that's the gift life has carefully wrapped, waiting for us all these years. Having learned to stay present, our minds also open to something else vital, self-reflection, not for judgment, but for deeper understanding. You might have spent a lifetime pleasing others, but have you ever sat back and asked, who am I when there are no expectations left? When young, life felt like a relentless, non-stop carousel. We were swept along by work, responsibilities, the roles we shouldered, child, parent, employee, or boss. Amidst all those must-dos, did we ever truly pause to ask, who am I? What do I genuinely want? Old age, often seen as the final chapter, actually offers time and space to reconnect with our true selves. Free from chasing approval, fearing judgment, we can finally sit alone without loneliness, silent without feeling empty. That isn't a retreat, it's a deeper journey into our inner world. Psychologists call this the ego integrity stage, when people tend to review their lives, connect the pieces of their past, and accept it all as a valuable part of who they are. What once seemed like mistakes, we now understand as valuable lessons. Old wounds often become the places where the brightest light enters. I remember old Mr. Walter, over 80, once a very busy aeronautical engineer, but only upon retiring did he finally take up painting. My whole life, I did what others expected. Now I finally live for myself, he'd say, diligently at his easel, hands trembling, his eyes bright as a child's. And then, in every brushstroke, he told his life story, not with words, but with vibrant color. Conversely, an acquaintance, Doris, lived busily until 70, never taking a moment to just sit alone. When she lost a loved one, she didn't know how to handle the void within, having never learned how to simply be with herself. She panicked, felt adrift, not due to old age, but from a lifetime of not truly knowing herself. If we don't take time to truly listen to ourselves, old age can indeed feel like an empty room. But if we learn to turn inward, each day becomes a chance for a quiet, deep, and beautiful dialogue with our soul. And the wonderful thing is, you don't need to start with anything grand or overwhelming. Try jotting down a few lines each day about what brings you joy, what's on your mind, or even a question you have always sidestepped. Don't fear the quiet. Within it, you'll truly find yourself. Old age isn't just for reminiscing. It's for truly understanding what you've lived for and perhaps what beautiful chapters are still unwritten. Don't let old age's quietude go unappreciated. Transform it into that most precious conversation, the one with yourself. And when you understand yourself deeply, you'll feel more at ease with things that once scared you, especially the fear of failure. Because at some point we realize we have nothing left to prove, only to live authentically, true to our own hearts. This leads to realizing there's no one left we truly need to please anymore. Youth is often a pressure-filled journey, not from a lack of strength, but from carrying so many weighty expectations, hoping for parents' pride, yearning for friends' admiration, wanting colleagues to see us in a new, respected light, and above all else, that gnawing fear of failure. Because for us then, failure felt like undeniable proof we just weren't good enough. But then life simply keeps on flowing, doesn't it? Those milestones once considered everything are now just faint echoes in memory. And we realize, often, the very thing we feared most never even happened. We're still here, still moving forward, despite stumbles, rejections, or having to start over. In old age, the best part isn't necessarily having it all. It's no longer needing to prove a single thing. No need to compete, no need to please anyone, no more worrying about what will people think. That is the greatest, most profound freedom old age can offer. U.S. psychological studies indicate Older adults are less swayed by so-called social pressures than any other age group. They rarely compare themselves to others and tend to accept setbacks as a natural part of life. No excuses, no hiding. I knew an elderly woman, Eleanor, nearly 80 when she first learned guitar. At first, people chuckled. Learn for what purpose now? But she just smiled, because I've simply never tried before. She wasn't a virtuoso, but each time she held that guitar, her eyes lit up like a child discovering song. She needed no accolades, no proof of talent. Just a chance to try was enough. Conversely, an old friend of mine, Henry, was a former bank manager. After retiring, he never dared to try anything new. He feared criticism, feared not being good, feared tarnishing his carefully built image. And so all the things he longed to do remain just thoughts, forever unrealized. If we still fear failure, we miss joys found only when we dare to be wonderfully imperfect. And at this age, we truly deserve to live more authentically than ever. Consider trying one thing you have always hesitated over, fearing people might laugh. Draw, learn to sing, write a love note to your partner, or simply say, I don't know, but I'm eager to learn. Old age is a precious time, not for proving anything, but for living fully, just as you are. And if you stumble or fail, that's perfectly okay, because ultimately no one has more right to judge you than you yourself, hopefully with kindness. Do you recall the last time you truly felt your heart completely at peace? Not because of an achievement or someone's praise, but simply because you were authentically yourself right there in that moment. Old age might sometimes make us feel we're falling behind, but in truth, it's a precious stillness, letting us clearly see what youth merely skimmed past. Not everyone recognizes the profound psychological gifts that time eventually bestows, because they don't arrive with applause, but in the quiet of understanding and deep gratitude. Perhaps you've faced difficult days with your body, your memory, or even times when there was no one to share with. Yet, in those very days, your spirit learns profound softness, patience, and the art of letting go. Every wrinkle tells a chapter of your unique story. Each moment of quiet reflection is a gentle act of healing. And every moment you can still truly listen to yourself, that is a precious gift. So, embrace living slowly. Allow yourself to be vulnerable. Let time pass like an old, unhurried friend without rushing. If today's video resonated with you, feel free to share it with loved ones or let us know your thoughts in the comments. It's good to know we're not alone on this journey. And if what you've heard today felt truly meaningful, perhaps try applying one small thing each day and see if your heart feels a little lighter. Thank you for listening, for truly listening. Until next time, perhaps on another quiet, reflective afternoon.